Hello there. Once again, it is time to take another revealing peek back into history.
What famous date shall I set it to today?
Once again, it's time for Throwback Thursday, a second chance to look at some truly awful podcasts. No, wait, a second chance to see how far Vicis Interimo has come over the last 8 years. New episodes will be released pretty much weekly, but Thursdays I've reserved for throwbacks to see how far we've come. A lot of the information on here no longer applies, whether that be businesses or links that may not work anymore, so be advised of that. But again, I want to thank the patrons that we have at this time, though they may not have been here the first time these episodes were recorded. I am thanking them again because they're helping us move forward with our new episodes. And those are patrons such as At Lonely Bob, Big Al V, and Goldafish. In the meantime, I hope that you enjoy what you hear.
There's something to check.
Hello.
I don't like your tone.
Hello. Was that better?
That's much better.
Okay.
Coming to you from the Bag End Studios in Southern California, it's Vicis Interimo, 30 Minutes to Kill. A brief podcast about horror movie classics, cult favorites, and even new and unreleased movies. You can find us at Bagend, that's one word, bagend.biz/vi.html. Let us help you kill some time. Well, first of all, welcome to Vicis Interimo, 30 Minutes to Kill. I'm your host, Michael Mad Saxon Jones, with my lovely wife, Lori. And this is episode 45. Today's movie review is Dead Girl. First, though, we have a brief Laid to Rest segment where we're going to cover a couple of things that we talked about last week. And we'll go into our movie review. And we'll finish up with our Garbage In, Garbage Out segment and talk about some of Lori's favorite shows, though I don't know what else there really is to talk about except they're your favorite shows. But,
are you talking the movies? The decade movies?
No, I'm talking about your TV shows.
Oh, we're going to talk about TV shows?
Well, you just wanted to talk about Fringe and Health. Yeah, actually, hold on. Let's do this in order.
Okay.
Okay, first of all...
Well, I don't have movies ready today for your, whatever your new bit is. What was it?
You're slacking. But, okay, just...
Sorry.
Questions. Anyhow, let's get on with our Laid to Rest first. Laid to Rest. One of the things that we did want to talk about, and I guess if we were any kind of real podcast, we would have looked us up before we started talking about it last episode, but Roosevelt Island is actually a real place.
I'm sure a lot of people knew that.
I'm sure they did, too, but we looked it up and found out a little bit more information about it. If you listen to last week's episode, which was on Dark Water, we talked a little bit about Roosevelt Island and how that felt kind of claustrophobic and kind of like a character in the movie, that apartment building that they were in. And so Roosevelt Island, it was known as Welfare Island from the 20s to about 1973. Before that, it was Blackwell's Island, and it's a narrow strip of island in the East River of New York, and it's between Manhattan and the borough of Queens.
Okay.
So not a very big place. It's only about 2 miles long and at a maximum width of 800 feet. And that's according to Wikipedia. I mean, I don't know how reliable that source is, but
yeah,
it's more information than what we had on it before. So
yes,
that was one thing.
Well, it's interesting how when we were looking at it online and researching it, I mean, it is kind of a cool place, but there's photos of it online. I mean, the architecture is just awesome. I mean, it's a neat-looking place.
And it's interesting the way they actually have their school district.
Yeah.
There's actually a school there, but it's within the different buildings and stuff, so it looks like a kind of a cool project.
Yeah. And the way the movie made it look just so twisted and uncomfortable and scary, you know. But it was always raining and dark. I mean, it's called Dark Water.
Yeah.
It was a horror thriller, whatever. But anyway. I guess we don't know our New York geography.
Nope.
So I've been through New York. I drove right through the middle of it, right through the middle of downtown. But that was it. I was on my way to, where was I? I was going from the airport and I was on my way to Connecticut and I did not stop.
I was going to say, where are you now? Because you sound a little confused.
I don't know. I don't know. It was a long time ago. That was probably a good 15 years ago.
Okay. I was going to say, I've had my own series of misadventures through New York, but that's between Stan and I. So anyhow, moving on to other listeners' feedback and other things. Ramses chimed in with his movie about human behavior. One of them that he suggested that we check out is Instinct with Anthony Hopkins. He said it wasn't a scary movie, but it was a great movie when it comes to human behavior.
I've seen it.
You've seen it? Was it good?
It was.
Anthony Hopkins, man, it's hard to picture him in a bad movie. I'm sure it's possible, but
it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cuba Gooding Jr. though, I can picture him in a bad movie.
Oh, see what happened to him?
I don't know. I love some of them.
He had such a strong start.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he's good in everything. I haven't seen him. I mean, he's always good. Even if he gets in a clinker, he's still good, though.
That's true. I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, and I love the one that it was a family movie, kids movie. The one where he, oh my gosh.
The dogs?
He ends up in Alaska, and he ends up, he finds out it was his, that was so long ago now. One of his parents died who he didn't know, and they leave him this property and all these dogs, and he finds himself up in Alaska. He's a city guy, but it was so funny. I remember we took the kids to see it when they were little, and it was really funny. But anyway, everything kind of went bad for him after that, though. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe I need to be corrected. Maybe I need to look him up and see what else he's been in.
Yeah, look him up. He's been in some good ones. He's been in some bad ones. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't see him very often anymore.
Right.
But yes, Instinct. The point is, I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Okay.
I think you would like it. So
we'll throw that on our list.
Yes, check it out.
Another one that I threw on our list after listening to Jason from Horophilia was Shudder. He chimed in. He said he hadn't seen Dark Water up to this point, but it sounded a lot different from the original. He said the original is a straight-up creepy horror movie with very little side subplots.
Okay.
So at that point, then he said that Shudder was original and phenomenal and easily one of his favorite Asian ghost horror movie. And he said he's seen probably about 30 of them, so he thought that was the best. One of the best of them.
Okay. So that's worth checking out then.
Definitely. One other tiny note here for the Laid to Rest segment. We talked a little bit about CGI versus hand-drawn animation, what have you. Just a minor note of trivia. Do you know where the first totally CG character appeared in? Which movie that was?
Yes, because you told me already.
Oh, you were supposed to act surprised. But anyhow. Anyhow, what was it?
I have no idea. Will you tell me, please?
Oh,
I'm dying to know.
No, I'm not going to tell you. It just sounds stupid. Anyhow, okay, young Sherlock Holmes.
No way. Oh, sorry. I knew that already anyway. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, so yeah, that was just a little side note since we were talking about computer.
That is a great movie.
That really is.
Yes.
Okay, well, enough of the shenanigans. I say we move on to our movie review.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do.
Let's get it over with.
It's really that bad for you?
It is.
Okay, well, we'll come back and talk a little bit more about Dead Girl.
If you close your eyes, can you make out the sky? sky.
What are you staring at?
Rick, you gotta get over that, man. You lost Joanne to puberty, you ain't getting her back.
Look, man, what are we gonna do?
Let's go to the nut house. What do you say?
Are there any security guards there or something?
There's no security guards, man. The place is dead. I see a door down here.
JT, what the hell, man? What's going on?
You can believe this, Rick.
Get out of here, JT. Hold on a second. We could keep her. Is there something that you gotta see? What did you do to her, JT? What the did you do to her? Look at her. This isn't real. She's staying here with us.
Hey, baby, you miss me? Hey, Ricky, everything all right?
Just asking for trouble, JT. We're all gonna get arrested or worse.
Down here, we're in control. We call the shots. Joanne Skinner? She never choose you, man. Thinks I can't see him when he's staring over Joanne.
Whatever you hear after tonight, I want you to know that I tried to stop it. Do you understand me? I'm gonna get you out of here, okay?
Joanne Skinner, man, what were you thinking? This is the best we're ever gonna have! I am doing this for your benefit, Rick. She's all yours.
Today's movie is Deadgirl. And it's not a movie that we would normally review, even really watch or review on the podcast necessarily. Let's just jump right in before we even start talking about it, though. For those that haven't seen it, it came out, the release date, at least I'm looking at Netflix, and it says 2008, and maybe it was out even before that. But
That's what it says.
Tell me about what the movie is.
Okay, here's the synopsis. After skipping school and breaking into the boiler room of a deserted mental hospital, buddies Rickie, played by Shiloh Fernandez, and JT, played by Noah Segan, make a shocking discovery: the plastic-covered naked body of a woman lying on a gurney. When they realize the woman may be alive, JT shocks Rickie by suggesting they take advantage of her. But all is not as it seems in this dark thriller. The door to the boiler room had been rusted shut for years.
I'd say it's exactly what it seems, actually, but
Yeah, I didn't talk to you about this yet. I didn't run it by you before we started here, but I'd like to do something different this week and go ahead and say spoiler alerts all over the place because I want to talk about every aspect of this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was so awful. I don't want anybody to get stuck going and watching it unless they know exactly what they're in for.
Okay, I agree with that.
It's 101 minutes of my life that I will never get back. So.
Wow. I didn't know you felt quite so strongly about this.
Well, you know, if it had a story or something.
Oh, man. Okay, well, let me back up.
A story would have been great. It's funny because I always I just kind of run over a few quick reviews. I always like to see the top reviews. And like someone had said that it was like some kind of genius plot, you know? Oh, they loved the plot. And it was like, there was a plot? There wasn't.
Well, okay, let me back up also by saying we're going to do something a little bit different, or at least this is my plan. I'm not going to give it a rating, and I basically, for saying it for the same reason that you were, which is I'm not going to give it a rating because I'm not going to encourage or discourage anybody from seeing it. I want people to know exactly what they're going to see if they choose to watch this, and I don't want to be responsible for telling you to see it or not to see it because... And again, I'm going to stress as always, this is just our opinion. I know there are a lot of people out there that do like this and think that it's great. But it's not for us for a couple of reasons, and maybe we'll touch on that. But
okay, I was going to say there's a lot of people gave it 5 stars on Netflix, but it was because it was totally sick and twisted, and they said they could see this was not a movie for everybody, and that they were just in the mood for something just kind of sick and twisted, so they enjoyed it.
Okay.
So, I mean, a lot of people gave it 5 stars. It's one of those where it's like it's getting 1 star, it's getting 5.
Okay, I could see that. It's a love it or hate it type thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it quite falls into the category of torture porn because, well, we'll talk about, actually I want to talk about that description of movies a little bit later on, aside from this movie. But it has what?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say I thought it had more to it because of the writing as opposed to
Okay, well let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
But we'll try to do it in a quick, because there really isn't much to it.
Okay.
2 high school boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Outcasts, you see them at high school. They're the I don't know, for lack of a better term. I was going to say like the reject, they're kind of scruffy looking. Nobody really talks. There's like a little band of friends that are the outsiders, the losers, whatever.
Okay.
Their hair's not combed, their clothes are shabby, whatever. And then there's like the jocks and the whatever.
Right.
So in that way, very typical. But yeah, 2 boys, they decide to ditch school. They go break into this mental hospital that had been closed for however long, they didn't say, but it was all, graffitied, broken windows, whatever, had been closed for years.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, what did you think of these 2 boys, these characters?
I thought they were okay. I could identify with them, or no, not like that. I mean, they were people I could identify. That's what I'm trying to say. I could see these people. I've known people similar to this, but not quite as extreme.
Okay, because I was going to say we have JT, who's kind of the ringleader, and he turns out to be just totally sick, psychopath, whatever. So hopefully you can't see too much of him in people that you've known or whatever. But it's kind of surprising because his friend Rickie is the more reasonable, he's got a little more morals and ethics, and he feels bad about things.
Mm-hmm.
But they're supposed to be lifelong friends, childhood friends, and like as the story picks up and they find this girl naked, it said it right in the thing, plastic covered naked body of a woman lying on a gurney, chained down, it just goes so horribly wrong. Because then it turns into it's just, oh, well, now we have a sex slave, and that's the story. But Rickie, of course, is like, I don't think so. But JT turns out to be a total sicko. I think the story, if it was trying to do anything, was to show that these boys were rejected by their peers, rejected by their families. They didn't have anybody. Usually I really enjoy a story like that because I like to see people still succeed in some way. This goes horribly wrong. It's not a happy story.
Well, I was going to say this movie, based on the synopsis he gave, goes exactly where you would think it would, depending on how cynical you are. Because if you just believe the worst in people and see the worst possible thing happening, that's pretty much what happens in this movie.
Yes. Because I was a little surprised because we always like to talk about ratings and why they're rated that way.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually not rated, but it was rated R in the theater. I don't know how much more we saw in the non-rated. I don't know.
Okay.
But it definitely had the gross stuff,
mm-hmm.
And it had a lot of having sex, I guess, with a zombie type girl chained down,
mm-hmm.
I guess. So, I mean, it had the sex, it had the gore, it had the violence for sure.
Right.
It had the language, it had all of the things that a rated R movie would have, but it had nothing else. It had nothing else to offer. Because some of my favorite movies, people could say, wow, that's your favorite movie. It's rated R and it has, sex and violence and this and that. But there's always a story and there's always a really important message, I feel, in a lot of my favorite movies that have all those elements in it. But this was just solid. That's the only thing it had. And it was one scene after another. There was no break. There was nothing. There was nothing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I can't argue with you. 'Cause I was going to say that at the outset, but I mean, it should be pretty obvious. I understand and respect everything you said. I think that, like I said, I can't argue and say that there was a good point to it. But I do think it was a better movie, because of the writing.
What writing?
The situations that happened. What, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to have a hard time disputing anything you said, but I did, obviously, I liked it better than you did. And like is a relative term here.
Because, it was two boys find this thing. Is she a zombie? Is she dead? Is she alive? We don't know. JT turns out to be totally warped. He ends up killing her. He thinks he kills her. Because right away they find her and he wants to take advantage of her.
Yeah.
In a sexual manner. Rickie's grossed out, freaks out, whatever, leaves. Later on he finds out that his friend JT was trying to do stuff to this girl, and she freaks out. She's a zombie or something, obviously. So she lashed out at him, and he kills her. He chokes her, hits her in the head, whatever. Yeah, he kills her 2 or 3 times. He ends up shooting her full of holes. There's no story. That's the story, I guess, too. But
I was just going to say,
girl and they keep her as a,
That is the story.
And the story seems to follow Rickie because he's actually not happy with what's going on. He's the only little glimmer of light in this whole movie, and it doesn't end well. Of course, they find out that this girl, if she bites you, possibly if she, we couldn't really quite figure out the whole scratching thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because at one point she scratches the boy JT in the face, and he gets he was already really twisted and needed help, but he acts even weirder after that.
Mm-hmm.
But they find out that, of course, if she bites somebody...
You're a goner at that point.
Well, and then
Not immediately, but...
Well, see, and that's the thing, too. She bit a guy, and he just kind of exploded, sort of, which I don't really want to talk about that scene. But
okay.
But that was pretty disgusting. They got in all the gross out stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely, if you just are a fan of, the gore and the twisted aspects, then yeah, it's a 5-star movie because that's all it has to offer. But for me personally, it had nothing for me. I enjoyed Rickie's character. I kept thinking, I wish I could pull this character out of the movie and put him in a different situation. Because there was no hope. It showed these boys' home life and everything. They didn't have parents. They didn't have anybody that cared about them. You felt bad for them.
Well, you only see Rickie's home life, really. You hear about JT's.
You hear about JT. Yeah, he lives with his grandmother, and she's older and can't really keep track of where he is anyway. So, yeah, they kept saying, well, if something happened to JT, if he disappeared, nobody would even care. Nobody would notice.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, too. All these things kept happening. People were disappearing. And nobody cared. No one was looking for these kids that disappeared or this kid that, got bit and went back to school. And I don't know what happened to him, but he ended up dying from the bite, dying a very disgusting, grisly death. We'll just put it that way. No one wondered, what happened to this kid? Where was he before this? What's going on? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much.
So let me get this clear.
Where's the parents? Where's the teachers? Where's the adults? It was just like these kids running around doing stupid stuff. But it wasn't written to really have a story. It was just a vehicle to show you this gross out stuff and do kind of a sick and twisted story without having to, without really having to put very much into thinking how things would really play out if this was really happening.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
I'm gonna stop you here. Now, first of all, so
Stop me, please.
did you not like the movie? Is that what you're saying?
No, I did not like the movie. I can't even give it a star. I don't even want to give it a star.
No, we're not rating it anyhow, but
Thank
okay.
Goodness.
Now, where I disagree, and only, like I said, I disagree just because I think that was the story. I think the story was the hopelessness of the characters. I think those scenes elevated it, and that's the only thing that made, arguably, the movie worthwhile are the scenes of what happened outside that room, obviously.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, that's just it. And I'm not saying, it was great. What I have in my notes, I wrote down, and this is just me talking again. I'm only expressing an opinion. I said the writing was good, but not mature. Well, you know what? He's writing his own story. Whoever wrote the story and stuff, that's fine. This is the way they wanted it. Not really up to me to say. I'm not his editor. So, but in my opinion, I thought that because the story, the things do get carried so far out of proportion. I mean, I like my stories either to be either realistic or, fantasy, one or the other. And this handled the situation realistically up to a point, but then it got well beyond there. I want to say that the gun makes an appearance in the movie. A gun and had that been a real story, that gun would have appeared in somebody's hands later and so on. Yeah. But having said that and stuff, we wouldn't have had the movie and I would say, you probably would say we shouldn't have had the movie.
No.
But we wouldn't have had the movie if they didn't, write the scenes and, carry the whole story out and what have you. But I can't believe the gun didn't show up again in somebody's hands.
You know why the gun was there, though? It was just there so he could shoot her full of holes so that they would have gross out scenes later as they point out the rotting holes in her body.
Okay.
I mean, that's all it was there for.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
I could see that. Well, that's what I was saying. I said
everything led back to just being a setup for something either twisted or gross, or it was just one of those kind of movies. Okay. And I may be even making it sound way worse than it is. I don't know.
No, it's pretty bad. It's.
I mean, I'm pretty desensitized. I'm just upset there wasn't a story or anything.
Okay. Well, my one of my notes right here, and we talked about it. This movie is not for the faint of heart.
No. Well, I mean, people wrote on here, difficult to watch and horrifying.
Okay. So it's not just us then.
No, it's not just.
Well, I mean, I figure, we've said before, we're not really gorehounds per se and stuff.
Right.
Though people would argue, well, what are you doing watching horror movies then? Well, I think that horror movies can be more than just gore or gross. So.
Right. Well, someone on here described it as a sex, slave, rape, torture thing.
Okay.
So
you've been warned. You've been warned.
Sex, slave, rape, torture. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
and you can was it torture? I mean, what was that was the whole thing. The guy was like, "What? She's dead anyway."
Yeah.
Like, you know what? But see, here's where they tried to put a little bit of heart in this movie, which at the very end, and it was too late for me. You need to be given something, as you go.
Yeah.
But, this character, Rickie, who, like I said, he was the only little glimmer of light in there. He had so much, compassion for this woman. Yeah. Even though she was a monster and she'll rip your head off. He felt bad for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
in the end, she spares him. So that was like, I'm glad they put that in there because you wonder, he would talk to her and say, I'm sorry, and he'd be trying to get her loose, but then, freak JT would come back and stop him or whatever. But at the very end, she's loose, of course. Spoiler, we already said we're going to talk about this thing, but she's tearing through everybody and it's not pretty, but she sees him, she just shoves him aside and leaves. So she spares him. So you think, okay, well, she did understand what they were doing to her.
Right.
And what they were talking about. And she understood that Rickie was, that he felt bad for her and he wanted to help her.
Right.
So that's the best part of the story for me. That
was it. That was the one thing. Well, this is what I have on here. The real horror in the movie is I put man to man and not the she monster. But yeah, the real horror in here is man's cruelty to man, not specifically JT to whatever, but I mean just that, people seemingly normal-ish or in society, even if they're on the fringes, that's where the horror comes in. That's where things can really go wrong. And, in these horror movies and stuff, a lot of times it's not the monster, it's not the ghoul, the whatever and stuff that's the real beast or thing you're fighting against. It's other people.
Well, that's a really good way to put it, actually, because I think you just hit it.
Yeah.
I mean, yep. I was going to say she wasn't hurting anybody.
In a relative term, yeah, exactly. She wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, somewhere along the line, somebody had chained her up and left her down there to rot.
Right.
Obviously, she was a danger.
Right.
But yeah, the things that these boys were doing to her, I mean, it was so sick.
Yeah.
I guess they got what they asked for.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's there's monsters and all this and that, but yeah, human beings can be pretty scary.
Yeah. Well, let me see. I did notice somewhere along the line, I wish I had it right now, but one of the people, they talked about the dog and they asked if that was a representation of the gate to hell. That was Cerberus and, whatever, but I mean, that's a pretty loose translation as far as I'm concerned, because if the dog had just kept showing up out of the blue, then that would be one thing, but for the way it went in the movie and stuff, it just kind of went gross and horribly wrong. And
well, see, and that's the thing too. Why was the dog there?
Yeah.
Just for the scene where she, it doesn't show it, but she grabs the dog in her teeth and tears it apart.
Yeah.
Is that why the dog was there? Because, I thought, something symbolic, this dog. Because that was a scary-looking dog, actually.
Very, yeah.
I mean, it was so, slick and black, and it looked like it was wet, and when it would sit there and put its ears down, it looked like a bull.
Yeah.
So I was like, ooh, what's this scary? That was, the coolest thing in the whole movie, that dog.
Yeah.
But then it just sort of came off as like a watchdog or a dog loose in the building, and then she kills it anyway. So I guess it wasn't some big symbol.
Yeah, nothing supernatural.
Yeah, I kept thinking it was her protector or something.
Right.
Or I mean, her.
If it was going to go that way.
Yeah, or it's something to keep people away or whatever.
Right.
But yeah,
well, I think to have any true value for us, or for me at least, to have any value, this movie, you have to go beyond the film. You have to be willing to discuss it or have somebody to discuss it with. For me, it wouldn't have been worth me just watching it by myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's just me. I mean, I don't know. That's
I gotcha. Hey, it gave us something to talk about.
It did give us something to. Well, we initially I had put this up that we were going to talk about it before I had seen the film, and left it up there and stuff. And then after we watched it, we kind of said, I don't know if we want to cover it this, in our podcast. So I pulled that down. So I didn't get any other people's feedback. I'd be interested to hear what other people have to say. Good or bad, loved it or hate it. If you loved it, I think I want to know why you loved it. Maybe I don't want to know why you loved it.
The people online whose reviews I read, the people who loved it, they just loved the sick and twisted stuff. That's it.
Well, okay.
So, you can't love it for its wonderful story.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, this normally isn't the type of movie we watch because we're looking, or at least I'm looking for, escapism, something to enjoy. If I want to see, sadness and despair, I look at our bank account. That's really what I have to do. So, aside from that, this is why we don't necessarily watch those type of movies. And I'm not opposed to a downer ending. I was going to
say, there's a place.
There's a place and time for that. If you want, Brazil is a good example of that. If you've read 1984, it's that needed a downer. I mean, it had to end that way. So anyhow, well, anything else about the movie? Did we cover most everything? I think we did. Well, I had one other thing to say about it, but I don't know how you're going to agree with this.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm young enough to remember, and sorry, you probably, but I was watching Siskel and Ebert back when Weird Science first came out.
Huh?
And their complaint with Weird Science was that Kelly LeBrock's character, wound up being a teacher or whatever. They created her and stuff, and instead she's the one teaching them a lesson.
Oh, right.
And they didn't like that. One or both of them didn't like that. They said, well, no, it should have just been a movie that, if they made her and stuff, she should have just been their slave or whatever. I think you would have wound up with a movie arguably more like this, not as dark and twisted.
Whoa.
But you know what I mean? It's like if she hadn't had that in that movie, she would have just been the slave, and this is what, not this as an example,
right,
of what two young boys would be doing with a sex slave or whatever, but this is just kind of a twisted 2000 version of Weird Science, sort of, but without the humor and all the other charm.
Well, yeah, they even try to make another one in the end.
That's true.
Well, this one starts to go bad.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's not good.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, and we're not trying to talk it up. We don't want you going out and renting this if, because of anything that we've said here. If it was already of interest to you, check it out and tell us what you think about it. Otherwise you want to skip it and we'll move on to something else. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have anything else for this one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, just again, like you just said, they're just opinions. I mean, these movies are made and sometimes they do fine in the theaters and people really like them. So. Yeah.
And like you said, we did see the unrated version, so I don't know how much of that stuff was amped up that we maybe wouldn't have seen under normal circumstances. So.
Well, and it's still though, the story wouldn't be there still. We maybe got a little more graphic than we would have liked, but the story, I mean, rated R version, the story wouldn't have been any better. Still would have been the same.
This is where we disagree, only because, like I said, I do think the story was just the despair of what these boys had. And I don't necessarily agree that it was realistic or whatever, or I don't think of it as being realistic, but I think that
it was totally unrealistic, yeah. Which, I mean, I get it. I mean, it's funny because like you were saying, you either want realism or you want just total freak out fantasy, but you can kind of get a good balance. You could do fantasy and really crazy far-fetched stories in a realistic way.
Yeah.
But it failed to do that. It was just ridiculous. And I think it was just to show shocking and gross stuff.
Okay.
I think that's why. Like I said, I think they tried to throw in a little heart there at the end, and it was too little too late. I wanted to see something. I needed a little bit more than that. I wanted to see at least Rickie, have some kind of happiness and succeed.
Even if he just left town, that would have been enough, I think.
That would have been a great ending. Just get out of the situation. Get far away from the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
But, yeah, so,
okay. Well, no writing for this movie. Let's move on. Or, well, I mean, do you have a rating to give it? Or?
Well, you know what I'd give it, so.
Okay. So just see it or don't.
Yeah, see it or don't.
See it or don't.
Some people might love it.
They might.
If it sounds like it's up your alley, hey, check it out. Okay. A lot of people loved it, so hey,
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's it for this one.
We talked way too long on this thing.
We did.
It did not deserve it.
Okay. So, as always, you can find us at lapodcasters.com, pennycult.com, or look for us on hillbillyads.com under Hillbilly Radio. What do you have for garbage in, garbage out?
Ooh, Fringe.
Are you happy that's back?
I'm so happy it's back.
Yeah?
I love Fringe.
We've only seen a couple of episodes, but...
Yep, we've seen 2.
They've been exciting and good.
Yes. And I've seen some good clips online that we haven't seen yet.
Oh, okay. Now, see, normally I won't do that. I won't go beyond, like with films, with movies like Lost and those that want to get you involved, going, checking things out. on the web and so on. I'm normally not into those, but for Fringe, you're willing to do that, or just happen to be clips that you caught?
Well, yeah. Well, it doesn't really give anything away.
Yeah.
So, but it gives a little insight sometimes into the characters or whatever, so that can't hurt.
Okay.
But yeah, and on Facebook, I belong to the Fringe fan page, so a couple times a week they'll post a short video clip or something of different scenes or whatever. But yeah, I can't help but click on that stuff.
Okay. You're not ruining it? I mean, that's not going to mess up? Okay.
Nope. Not at all.
All right. And Hell's Kitchen? Sharktopus. Okay, let's talk about Sharktopus.
We could talk about Hell's Kitchen first if you want to get TV shows done.
Okay, what Hell's Kitchen? How are you enjoying that?
I always love watching Hell's Kitchen.
Not as good this time, though?
You know what? It's kind of a parody of itself this season so far to me. I just feel like they're picking more and more people to be on the show that don't have a chance of winning. They're just on there for the show because it's good TV. And I guess you got to have a little bit of that, but I think they went a little overboard this time.
Okay.
I mean, they've already kicked a couple of the people off, but it was kind of out of control this season.
Okay.
And I remember reading, there was an interview with Chef Ramsay where he even felt like some of the people, and this wasn't even this season, this was a couple seasons ago, where, I think he would actually like to see more valid contestant, because he's looking for people to run restaurants.
Well,
sometimes it's to run his own.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the end, he is really putting his reputation out there with these people. So
I know he's complained about that in the past, and I would love to hear what he has to say about this group. Because, man, there's some wacky people in there. I think there's a couple good people. I think they probably decide before they even start the show who they're going to hire. And then I think it kind of feels like the show is it's for entertainment, and they're not really competing.
For entertainment purposes only?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, the people will try to put the best people up there for elimination, and if he doesn't agree with it, he doesn't do it. So he kicks off who he wants to. That's true. I do think it's all pre-planned, and he probably has a real good idea who he's going to pick already.
Okay.
And he's probably told that he needs to leave the wackos on there as long as possible for the show.
Okay.
It is good for ratings.
Yeah, that's true.
But, it's a little, I don't know, it's bumming me out a little.
Okay, well, in keeping on with our horror theme, let's move on to Sharktopus.
Yeah.
That finally came out. You said the best thing about that was the trailer?
Yes.
Oh, that's too bad. I did have... Well, I can't say I had high hopes because I knew it was going to be on Sci-Fi.
Yes.
But Roger Corman, so I did think, well, maybe there's a possibility, and it had Eric Roberts in it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't bad enough, huh? It wasn't good enough or bad enough.
It was trying to be bad, I think, but they did too good of a job at trying to be bad.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
it makes sense to me, but...
Yeah, so it was just kind of bad.
Okay.
They were the jokes and things that they were making in there. It was very deliberate. They were trying to do a bad movie and make fun of themselves.
Okay.
Which you could tell that by the trailer.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it just kind of fell a little flat. It just wasn't as good as I hoped.
Okay. And
the acting was not good.
Yeah, very true.
Not Roberts. He did okay. He wasn't in it as much as I thought he might be, but
yeah.
I don't know.
The main actress, she kind of lost her accent or let her accent slip through a couple of times, as the case may be.
Yeah, she didn't do a very good job, and either did the main guy. They were the two hunting this thing down, and they just, I liked there was a reporter, the obnoxious woman reporter. I loved her.
Yeah.
She was a strong character. She actually had something to enjoy, and her cameraman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bones or whatever his name was. I don't remember now. I think that was his name, but he was so funny.
Yeah.
He had all the best lines.
True.
He reminded me of Pedro.
Yes, from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, he was like Pedro's older brother or something.
Maybe his cousin from Mexico.
Yeah, he was great.
Good stuff.
He was the best part.
Okay.
But yeah, it was lame.
Well,
and Sharktopus died lame, and it looked lame, and yeah.
Okay, not lame enough, that's all. Let me ask you, something else I had said we were going to talk about. We might have to save the discussion for another time, but we did watch the last half or the whatever of Rest Stop.
Oh my gosh. May as well talk, since we're talking about Deadgirl, let's get that out of the way.
Okay, well maybe we'll go long then, because I want to talk about the idea of torture porn. I know some people in the podcasting community, whoever, and again, these are all opinions, so whatever, but they don't like that phrase or that term being applied to the some of the movies that they watch or review or that they enjoy.
Yeah.
For me, moral issues aside, porn is something that you watch. You're not looking for a story. It's just supposed to be titillating and enjoying, for enjoyment. And, so to say that it's torture porn, that's what I'm thinking that these movies have. They just strictly gross out, strictly, they're just, the only thing on the screen to enjoy is watching somebody being inhuman to somebody else. So I think the torture porn does fit, for me, as a definition of some of the movies that we've seen and some of the movies that are out there. And as far as that goes, but I mean, it's not a new thing. We were talking with somebody else. Was it Derbs that was brought up 2000 Maniacs?
Oh, yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's torture porn too. They didn't have the term back then. But, 6 people go to a town only to be crucified or murdered in fun and unique ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
was a movie from, what was that, late 60s, early 70s?
Or
I don't
something
remember
like that.
now.
It was, I should have looked that up. But
yeah, that was quite graphic and disturbing for that time.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it didn't have a story, so.
So, and it was just about, this town where, they have the celebration of the South and, well, I shouldn't say of the South, of the Civil War or what have you. And,
well, I mean, there was, if you really read a detail of the plot, I mean, there's some kind of curse and some kind of, the people who live down there are, they feel they have to sacrifice people for what happened to them during the Civil War or something. I don't remember now exactly, but.
But yeah, this was like 1964, so I mean, this was long before the term torture porn came into fashion. But yeah, I mean, it was the same thing. So I mean, it's been around forever. So anyhow, that was just a thought on that. So Rest Stop, we caught the last part of Rest Stop.
Sorry, I did.
Well, it was your idea.
Well, I kept waiting for something else to happen.
Yeah.
But nothing else happened. It was just, cruelty and gross out, and I don't get it. It's just not
It's not for us, and that's, that's.
Well, it's just like, I don't get certain kinds of comedy. I don't get slapstick. I'm sorry. I know people always go, oh, how can you not love Airplane? I'm sorry. It just does not compute. I don't know.
What? Are you kidding?
Yes.
Airplane is great. What are you talking about?
No. So, I mean, everybody's different.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just certain, I mean, I like a lot of genres of movie, but there's certain things that just don't fly for me. And just straight gross out cruelty movies, torture stuff, that is just meaningless for me. But some people just enjoy sitting and watching it. I don't know. I don't understand it myself, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, it's not just you, because I would agree with that and stuff. The only thing that made...
Thank goodness. We'd have a problem, you see.
Well, no, I'd just be watching more movies by myself or whatever, I guess.
Oh.
Well, no, because you wouldn't... I was going to say, you wouldn't want to be with me, so...
I'd be in the living room, you'd be in the bedroom, or vice versa. Hey, what are you watching? Oh, okay, well, I'll see you later. Yeah.
But that was, I was going to say, that was the thing with Hostel for me. The only thing that made it slightly redeeming or whatever was just the fact him getting revenge at the end. After sitting through all this stuff, I did feel like I needed that. Because, I mean, otherwise it wouldn't have been a movie that I would have, I didn't necessarily choose to watch it anyhow, but yeah. It just that
it tried to throw something in there.
There's got to be something in there, yeah. But I'm sure that was an afterthought, and probably, I mean, maybe he had that plan from the beginning, or maybe that was just what the test audience said it had to have. But
yeah. Well, you know, I don't know. And as far as Rest Stop, you said they made a second one?
They did.
So somebody somewhere loved this first one.
Somebody liked it enough to put some money into another one, so.
Yeah, so that's a shame. And Joey Lawrence, what are you thinking? Don't take those jobs.
He needs a paycheck.
No, he doesn't need a paycheck that bad. He can find better jobs than that.
He can come over and clean the house.
Awful. That scene where he finally dies, that's awful. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Maybe people want to check out that. We already talked way in depth about Deadgirl and gave all that away. But yeah, if you like just straight torture and gross out stuff, yeah, Rest Stop. But
Okay.
yeah, Joey Lawrence. Why?
Well, anyhow, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, this is a painful week.
Is it? Okay.
Seriously.
Well, we'll have to maybe we should do our SpongeBob next week or something and give us something fun to look forward to, our SpongeBob horror episode.
Maybe we should wait till it's closer to Halloween for that one. Maybe that should be our special Halloween episode.
Okay, maybe. You broke up on that one. Could you say that again? You said maybe Halloween?
Oh, yeah. I said maybe we could save that one for a Halloween episode.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. I was going to say, that'll kill our ratings completely then, but no.
It might.
Anyhow.
Hey, there is some good horror SpongeBobs. There's some good scary ones.
Yep, something you can share with your kids for those of you with parents.
I mean, there's one that makes me feel downright uncomfortable. Yeah.
Okay.
Talk about it.
Talk about that then. In the meantime, thanks for, unless you had anything else to add?
Oh, no. Like I said, this week was painful.
In the meantime, thank you all for listening. We do appreciate your continued support. And remember, if you're enjoying our show, be sure and share it with a friend. The end.
Thank goodness.